Hi, everyone. This is Gary Berman, host of the Cyber Hero Adventure Show, coming to you with an extra special, first time ever show that I've done in response to a blog. But it's not so much just what was written, it was how it was written and also by whom. So let me introduce Rich Campagna, the SVP of Products for Palo Alto Networks. Welcome to the show, Rich.
Thanks, Gary. Glad to be here.
Well, I'm going to ask you right off the bat, what prompted you to write such an interesting blog, which I'm going to be sharing with everyone on the screen in just a few minutes.
Excellent. Well, great. First of all, appreciate that. And appreciate anyone who either pays attention to this show or checks out that blog post. Honestly, what drove it and motivated it, Gary, is that Palo Alto Networks, we develop a lot of technologies, and we had a really big announcement of a new set of features and functionality that are embedded into our network security operating system. Our customers would know it as PAN-OS, but this is the set of software that powers all of our firewalls, which we've been known for from the very beginning of the company, hardware, then later on software and cloud native firewalls, as well as our SASE solutions. So we've built this network security platform. PAN-OS powers all of those different form factors of technology. And this was an announcement of some of the key features that have brought to market in that version of PAN-OS.
There are a couple of things that really caught my attention about you, Rich. And the first is, just your humility, and how you called out in a good way the team over at Palo Alto Networks and the great engineers and developers and everything. I thought that was really a thoughtful thing to do to shine the light on your colleagues, not just on yourself.
Well, they're stellar, and to be perfectly honest, Gary, uh, they, they do most of the work. We have thousands of people working on our products. The fact that I'm able to be the spokesperson for a lot of this, or one of a handful of spokesperson people, is you get some of the, I guess, more credit than perhaps is due. It's really the thousands of people working here at the company that are putting these great products out to market. So.
Indeed. And speaking of kind of humility, I'm not sure our audience would know that you're actually a bit of an author. You want to hold up the cyber or the
Sure.
book
Well,
that you,
okay. I happen to have it here, as you know. Oh, there we go. Mobile device security for dummies.
uh,
The Zoom background is kind of obscuring it a little bit, but yeah, this is another story. I haven't told you this one, Gary. Not too long ago, I had an AI tool. I just wanted to see if in an hour I can prompt an entire novel. So if I ever bring that one to and publish it, Gary, you'll be the first one to know. So, and it
oh,
actually the novel is fantastic. So
yeah, it's crazy.
crazy time.
That's another whole discussion. I'm actually working with a startup at the moment now whose mission it is to apply a layer of truth to AI. It's a pretty audacious sort of thing, but it's amazing what's happening now and where it's going to be going. So, with that in mind, let's share your blog post and tell us about it. What prompted you and your colleagues to really just lean into quantum the way that you have?
Yeah, quantum is so. There's a couple of big. First of all, let me start by saying I called out these thousands of developers. Right, there's a huge amount of, you see it there on the screen. PAN-OS 12.1, Orion. Huge amount of innovation goes into a feature like that, or into a release like this, and hundreds of different features. So it's always so hard to pick what are the key things that are kind of the anchor points of something like this, a big announcement like this. So we focused on two things in some of the announcement. This is one of them, quantum. So um, you know as you and your viewers are, I'm sure, aware, everything that we do in terms of digital communications is encrypted, right? It all uses some set of algorithms that have served us well over the several decades since they've first been brought to market. And most notably, most of the communications, including this communication you and I are having over Zoom, is using something called public key cryptography. And public key cryptography, um, invented back in the 70s, if you can believe that, and has kept us secure all the way, since way back then. Let's say almost 50 years. And what's happened is, as computers have gotten more and more powerful, we've just made that public key cryptography, the same kind of fundamental sets of algorithms, more strong, right? We increased the key length of these things, and that's kept us relatively secure over the years. Still, there's there are hacks and other types of things, but that core of encryption has been very powerful for us for decades now. The challenge is that we're getting closer and closer, both in commercial projects that we know about from people like Microsoft, Google, and IBM, but then also, perhaps nation state and other types of well-funded projects. We're getting closer and closer to a quantum computer that will be able to crack that public key cryptography.
Right.
And the reason it will be able to do that is that there's one in particular already designed algorithm by a professor out of Stanford, that when we get a quantum computer powerful enough, they can apply that algorithm, and it will enable this quantum computer to instantaneously break all of our encryption, which means this Zoom discussion can be intercepted.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
emails that you send, any kind of web transaction, basically everything that we do that keeps our digital life secure will now be observable by somebody that can intercept that traffic and has a quantum computer. So our job is to ensure that enterprises now, or the organizations that we serve, update their devices, their applications, and their network infrastructure to be protected against quantum. Now, when will the quantum computer be strong enough to break this public key cryptography? No one knows for sure. Right? All of our, any estimates, whether it's us or any other kind of expert in this space, is somewhere between 3 years and 10 years from now. It seems like a pretty long time horizon, but if you think about a large enterprise may have thousands of applications. Some of them are SaaS applications, and if they're dealing with major SaaS vendors like a Salesforce and Microsoft, they'll update, and if they haven't already, and they'll use these quantum safe algorithms to protect their applications. Most of the applications we use on our devices, those are being upgraded too, right? Every browser out there, Chrome, Edge, whatever, they all support quantum safe algorithms. And then so part of the announcement was our announcement that where we're taking all of our network security products and updating them to be quantum safe with a software update that most of our customers have access to. But the really challenging thing for most organizations, the long-term thing, is these hundreds, if not thousands, of internally developed applications that they have. Right. It will take them years to update. And so that's why we're bringing this now, right? If you go to a major organization, a Fortune 500 company, and say you need to update all of your applications to support some new form of encryption, it doesn't matter how fast or how many resources. There's some of these applications that haven't been touched in years. So the idea is, we can help them with some of the technology we've brought to market to one, understand what those applications are that haven't yet been updated to be quantum safe, and then two, put a form of network translation in place that will allow them to isolate those applications that aren't going to meet these deadlines. Those applications will talk the traditional cryptography that we use today to our network security services, and then to the outside world, we update them automatically to be quantum safe. So this is really a story about, one, helping organizations understand that there's a lot of work ahead, and so they need to start now. And then two, there are technologies out there that are being developed, including the ones that we've released, that can help them accelerate that path to quantum readiness.
So there's so much to unpack there, but so the first thing I'd like to ask about that is, are you finding, or are your communications teams finding that enterprises and mid-market, even small to medium businesses, that they accept this premise that you just laid out, that you're going to need it?
Well, most accept it. I would say that, so a year ago, Gary, the interest that I had I talked to tons of customers, right? Tons of organizations, primarily larger organizations, Global 2000 and government organizations and the like. A year ago, most of the interest, even in those very large organizations, was in government and financial services.
Right.
Now, just this week alone, I had a conversation with the CISO of a major airline about quantum readiness. I had a conversation with the entire security leadership team of a major utility here in the U.S. Right, the need and the interest has really expanded. But then also part of it is our own decision making internally inside of Palo Alto Networks on when is the right time to bring a message like this to market, to start educating the market? Because quite frankly, a lot of organizations will look to someone like us, or other analysts, or other kind of folks in the industry to sort of take the lead and tell them when is the next thing that they need to focus on. And there's a lot of noise out there right now, Gary, with AI. So to come and bring this message to the market right now, we had to consider that very carefully. But our view is, as I said before, it will take organizations a long time to get there. We can help accelerate it, but if they don't start now, at least with the visibility and the planning of what they need to do, that time may come and go, and then there's a tremendous amount of what's called a black swan event that would happen when our modern crypto gets.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So just to unpack AI a little bit, how do you assess the role of AI in post-quantum cryptography, and what's your take on it?
Well, good question. On one hand, AI is being used to kind of accelerate some of these quantum projects that are out there, so that it kind of shrinks that timeline that I talked about before. In terms of quantum readiness, we think about a couple of things with regards to AI in our products. Right, we have a set of products that we've introduced probably a year and a half ago and continue to really invest in quite heavily, that are all about securing the use of AI in an enterprise, so independent of the underlying crypto. Right, and two big use cases in a typical organization. One, employees like myself or yourself accessing third-party Gen AI applications and putting some controls around what I can do and what data goes into those applications, et cetera. Second one is around protecting the organization's AI-powered applications that they deploy against, protecting them from attackers. So that's kind of one lens. Is there's this use of AI, whether it's internal or external AI, and we need to ensure that organizations have all the controls in place so they can provide appropriate use or secure use of those AI
and security.
Yeah, of course. Security is job number one for us in all cases. Second big area where AI kind of factors into security is in the detections, right? This is the security use case you just mentioned, Gary. So here, what we're talking about is that we have something almost 5,000 models running in our cloud environment that are all there's some large language models, some small language models, some just kind of like machine learning and deep learning types of models, but these are all trained to find and identify the various different attack techniques that attackers are using to go after our customers. So that's a second big use of AI, and that's enabled us to find things like, for example, increasingly we're seeing attackers leverage these post-quantum ciphers as basically, let's call it a telling mechanism, right? And here's why this is an interesting technique, right? All of our communications are encrypted today. Right, everything that we do, whether people realize it or not, it's all encrypted. And if it's not, you're getting browser warnings or whatever else. But what we're seeing is attackers using these quantum safe algorithms. They're known as post-quantum ciphers, or PQCs, to either bring attacks into an organization or exfiltrate data. And why is this an interesting technique? Well, inside of our enterprise networks, there's technologies like ours being used to inspect all this encrypted traffic to make sure there's not nefarious stuff happening.
Right.
Well, attackers know that most of the other network security infrastructure that's out there has not been updated to support these PQC algorithms, and so the whole notion is if just pass it through, just let it go through. And so that's kind of another area where we see AI and post-quantum ciphers, kind of come together, where we can, leverage these technologies to identify some of this stuff, identify what is suspicious or perhaps malicious, and then apply it to that decryption that we're able to do with the post-quantum ciphers. And then, of course, the last area where we use AI in our products is to just make it easier to get to operate, administer, and get the visibility you need out of the products. That relates a little bit less specifically to quantum readiness.
Wow. I don't even know what to say about that, except my head's exploding. That's probably the
So
sound
am I doing too much? We
that
can
you hear.
reel
No,
it back
quite,
in.
no, quite the opposite. I mean, I think we should have a recurring series if you want to spend time every week or two. But just to kind of wrap up for a moment, you know, one of the things you said before we hit the record button, when I was mentioning to you that, you know, one of the things that we do is superhero comics to distill the complexity of this stuff into something people could get their heads around. That must be a mission of yours to be able to explain in plain language what you just said and how it works and why. Right? Is that correct?
Yeah, there's a lot of advanced technology that we use inside of our products.
Right.
To distill. I'll tell you. Let me tell you this, Gary. In it's been a couple of years that we've been developing this post-quantum stuff. Just to give one specific example, and the first passes at kind of explaining this quantum stuff to our customers, because at this point I will, by the time we bring something to market, I will have explained it to somebody hundreds of different times, and actually equally people on my team as well, right?
Right.
And the first passes of this had all kinds of quantum physics, right? Qubits, which are the fundamental compute element of a quantum computer. We were talking about superposition. We were talking about quantum entanglement. And honestly, people's eyes just crossed and then rolled back in their heads.
Exactly.
And so ultimately, after like hundreds of iterations of this, we get to the point where it's like, all right, what is the task with regards to quantum? Well, we use cryptography today. Over time, as computers have gotten more powerful, we have made that same cryptography stronger. Now there's a new type of computer out there that's going to be able to break even that strong cryptography. So even, in the early days of my career, we used different encryption algorithms that had very short key lengths. And now, it was like 256-bit key lengths. Now it's up to 2048 or 4096-bit key lengths. That same playbook of changing the encryption, which we've done every 5 years or so, roughly, no longer is going to work, but we just have to switch to a different crypto algorithm. So at the simplest, all you have to understand is that there's a quantum thing that is coming. You don't have to understand anything about it. It will break crypto. We have to migrate crypto just like we have before, except this time we have to change, not just extend the key length, but change the algorithm, right? And so, but it took, hundreds of discussions to get to this point where none of this quantum stuff matters. All that matters is this is the risk and this is the way you mitigate it. And you've done this before. It's just slightly nuanced this time. So.
That's a great way to distill it and a great way to come to a close to our time today. So, how does our audience get more information about all the great stuff you guys are doing?
Well, you said you'd reference that blog that was actually authored by my boss, not by me necessarily. All of that is available on paloaltonetworks.com, and I think you're going to put a link into this as well. So.
Yeah, indeed. Well, Rich Campagna, on behalf of a grateful digital universe, thanks so much for who you are and for what you do, and most importantly, why you and your colleagues do what you do.
Thank you, and thanks everyone for listening.
Indeed. And to our audience, stay tuned for more from the Cyber Hero Adventure Show.